dad actually came to the mill first. He was working in what they call the dye house, where they would test the dyes that would be going on material. He worked there for probably almost a year. And they had an athletic director at the mill at that time, and evidently he wasn't doing the job that the Hutchinsons thought he would. And my dad went to talk to Mr. Hutchinson, John L. Hutchinson Jr., and he said, I'd like an opportunity to take that job as athletic director. He said, you know, I'm probably not as qualified as I should be, but he said, I'll do the best job you've ever seen to do it if you will give me that job. And he said, John L. looked at him and said, Mr. Lauder, you come in here with one leg during the Depression and want a job like that? He said, I'm gonna give it to you. And you know, 40 years later, all those years, he was athletic director there. And I mean, he would go to work at 7 in the morning and he'd come home at 8 or 10 at night because he had ball clubs going on. His days off, he went over to Warner Park. That's where his lifeguard, I'm saying, is Warner Park. He would go over there on his days off and watch baseball game, softball game. I said, that's kind of crazy. But at 11 years old, he lost his leg. He was playing basketball. He loved sports. He was playing basketball at one of the churches downtown had an outdoor court, and a barbed wire prong hit him in the leg, and he didn't tell his mother about it. His father died a year earlier. He was a fireman in downtown Chattanooga, and when he got so bad, he had to tell her, and when they took him to the hospital, they had to take his leg off. Gangrene had set in real heavy. Today they probably could have handled it, you know. And the other thing was he started swimming with a one leg. He lived very close to the YMCA downtown. He'd go there and swim every day, you know, 30, 40 laps. And then he started swimming on a swimming team. Then he swam all over the country and had some records, but he couldn't go to the Olympics for the simple reason that he was handicapped. At that time, they didn't have a handicap program. And anyway, he was really, his whole life was helping other people. Friends told me that when he dated my mother, he'd get on a trolley to go home. He'd take it off, throw it over his shoulder. And I don't know how but he walked up with crutches. He could do a handstand on his crutches. I mean, he could actually do a handstand on it. His upper body was so strong, and the swimming too. But his whole life was built around helping the young people in Rossville as well as the adults, you know, to give them everything that they needed. Man, they booked in at the gym. They would have plays. They would have dances ever so often for the people. They even, when the movies came in, you know, they showed movies there once a week. On Friday nights, they'd have a movie if there wasn't a ball game going on. Well, they had intramural. They had basketball teams out of different departments in the mill had their own softball teams, usually slow pitch. Fast pitch was later for the high-tech softball. They had the basketball for them. They had badminton for them. Later, when the gym was built, they had bowling alleys. They had 12 bowling alleys there. And just about every department in the mill loved to bowl. And they had a restaurant in there. They had also the gym was set up so that they could have things in the gym like dances and stuff like that. The old gym, which was at the foot of right across from the mill, was upstairs, and downstairs there was a drugstore, a grocery store, and a cloth where they would sell materials, you know, to the public. And but the new one was something different. I mean, it was first class all the way. And later they started having semi-pro type basketball, baseball, and softball teams and men's. And later they had women's softball. During the Second World War, the men were gone to the service. They had gone to war. They had women's softball teams. They played all over the country. I mean, everywhere. And they would play Army teams and beat the heck out of them. These women they had some women that could have played pro baseball, really. And it was fast pitch, it wasn't slow pitch. They had a picture of this lady, she'd strike you out and so fast it's unbelievable. So the softball teams continued to grow. Later, there's a organization called the Southern Textile League, which were several mills up through North and South Carolina, probably about 12 mills that all had basketball and baseball teams, and they'd play each other. But at the same time, in Chattanooga at that time was a big fast-pitch softball league. You had the Combustion Engineering, you had Ernest Holmes, which is a record company, big record company, DuPont. All these had, they had semi-pro, fast-pitch softball and baseball teams. I think a lot of this came from the Hutchisons. They didn't want just an employee. They wanted people to love their jobs, even if they worked hard. He paid them well. And the thing is, the mill houses, they built several mill houses, and it was written up in the paper about the mill houses they built were so far advanced from the ones that other companies were building. You know, they had some modern things that the others did not have. And the whole thing was built around keeping employees happy, because they knew if you keep the employees happy, they're going to be satisfied. And you know, and I said the unions had tried to get in several times. People didn't want the unions. They didn't need them. They had a place up on the lake. They had built a restaurant up there. Had putting greens. They had sand on. They put sand on the beach like Florida, and had boat docks and everything. And the people go up there on the weekends. Had picnic tables all scattered all around, and it was all free. You go in, you might buy a sandwich there or something, but other than that, it was there just for their employees. And I think the whole thing, it wasn't just the sports, it was giving back to the people to keep them really happy with what they're doing. Because there was, you know, during the Depression, there wasn't a whole lot of things people could go to that they had to pay to go to. When they came to a basketball game or softball or baseball game, you know, and then the Rossville High School always had pretty good athletic teams, and they sort of really supported them. And the Hutchisons built a football stadium. They had it built for the football. They bought their uniforms for them, did everything. And it was very important to them, you know, to give back. And my daddy understood that, and you know, so he wanted to make it as nice and as he could, and he can keep the people in the mill happy with what was going on. It was just an exciting time to be around with the people. You know, what are you doing tonight? Well, I'm going to the ball game, you know, because they didn't have the money to go to big plays or something. That's the reason at the gym here, at the new gym, they had the country western singers coming in, some good ones. A lot of the religious groups would come in and sing, and again they'd have plays, put on plays. It's like, you know, and they'd have people in the dances, you know, once or twice a month, and it was just a great time for sports to grow, because, and I think the main reason it grew so large, again, the people that worked in a plant like that, they were going to be there. I don't care if it's DuPont, Combustion Engineering, or who, they were going to be there. And they had good crowds at all the games. Wool was beginning to die out, you know. I don't know if you've ever owned a wool suit, but sometimes they last forever, but they were scratchy, okay? And wool seemed to be, even though they were mixing the wool with some of the other fabrics that were out on the market then, the wool market started going downhill. And a lot of the mill stuff, particularly a lot of the mills up in North and South Carolina, starting going to other countries, Mexico. Some of them even went to Japan, you know. And I think that's when the mill started, not to deteriorate, the business started deteriorating. They did everything they could. I know the Hutchisons did to hold it together. And I forget the year that Burlington bought them. I think I was not living here. 52 they bought them. That, yeah, I was over in Korea then when it happened. But I think Burlington bought it to keep it running. But again, their whole philosophy of the employee was different. You know, I think they did give the people a little bit of raise, but they cut all these fringe benefits they'd had all these years, the banquets, the movies, all these things that they gave to them free. They cut all that out, so the people there, they were kind of disgruntled, you know, even though they may be making a little bit higher wage. That didn't support all the other things that they had that were free before. And it was a shame because Rossville was a bubbling little town. It had little restaurants and some nice stores and men's clothing stores, two of the best in town. People from Chattanooga would come over here to buy clothes. And at the same time, the jewelry store that's still up there now, you know, they were there. And this killed all that when they closed the mill down. But you take thousands of employees and all their families, well, most of them had 2, 3 kids. You know, there's a lot of people that had to disperse and find jobs somewhere else.